Welcome to the first in a series of webinars on food security in the Bahamas. I came up with the idea to have a webinar on food security in the Bahamas in the wake of COVID-19. And I reached out to the Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Michael Pintard, and told him, of this idea that I had. And his question to me was, well, Michelle, how long do you anticipate speaking about this? I said, well, I was hoping to do this like in one session, maybe about an hour or two the most. He says, Michelle, there's no way you can cover all of that in that amount of time. And so he recommended that we do a series of these webinars to give farmers and those of you in the agriculture sector an opportunity to make your voices heard. This webinar is being brought to you today by Bloomin' Minerals, which is a product of a company by the name of Longevity. And we're going to, at some point during the webinar, have greetings brought to us by a representative of the company who will just bring a few words of welcome on behalf of the company. Why is this conversation important? We see what is happening around the world as it relates to food security. The Bahamas, as you all know, we import about 95% of the food that we consume. And when we talk about food security in the Bahamas, we have to keep in mind that when our borders are open, with tourism being our #1 sector, we are faced with the challenge of not only feeding ourselves, but feeding the 7 million visitors who come to our shores each year. Someone actually said during one of my shows on the paradigm shift that we need to stop thinking of ourselves as just a country of 400,000 people when it comes to feeding ourselves, where we have to feed over 7 million every year. 95% of what we consume is imported. And when we see things happen like what is going on around the world right now with COVID-19, it's a very scary position to be in, because with the borders shut, with us not knowing what decision countries will make from where we get our imports, we obviously have to start to move towards doing what we've been talking about for decades, and that is learning how to feed ourselves. And so we're going to begin this webinar by hearing from Karen Shepard, who is co-chair of the National Advisory Committee to the Ministry of Agriculture and president of Bahamas Agri-Entrepreneurs. Karen is passionate about agriculture, and she serves as the president for 2 agricultural organizations and is currently forming a cooperative that will put Bahamians in a better position to receive funding from both local and international organizations through grantsmanship. And this cooperative would also make it easier for farmers to purchase, because many of the farmers in the same zone are growing the same crops, and seeds and soils would be able to be purchased in bulk, which would be much cheaper for the farmer. So Karen is very, very passionate about agriculture, and she leads one of the largest associations of farmers in the country. And so it would only be fitting for us to hear from her, and she will be speaking on behalf of the farming community.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And I'm actually out in the farm.
Nice.
And I want to say thank you for having me on your Zoom meeting today. And, thank God for this opportunity that the voice of the farmers can really be heard at this point. And unfortunately, it had to take this pandemic for it to actually come to the forefront. But in all things, we give God thanks. And then secondly, I'd like to give credit to Mr. Sidney Sinclair, who's the owner of Down to Earth Adventure Farm, for allowing me to be a part of this project and development of the farm. And, we've been working on this project now for 16 years. And it's only now it's really coming to the forefront. And so it's all about perseverance, being diligent and pursuing your goals and objectives. And so now it's really coming to the forefront. And again, as you mentioned, in regards to the co-op, the Bahamas Agro-Entrepreneur, that's a co-op that was formed out of a need. And what had happened was we had approached both governments, and we, our, I should say, our messages fell on deaf ear. So we decided, well, we'll have to go this one alone. And so the farmers came together last year, August, and we formed a co-op, Bahamas Agro Entrepreneur. And I'm the president. Mr. Reverend Patrick Paul, sorry, Reverend Patrick Paul is the vice president. And we have Sharon Dorset as the secretary, and Deja Dorset as the treasurer. Unfortunately, we were supposed to complete the rest of the board in March, but everybody knows what happened in March. And so we're in short order, we'll have that completed. And once that is completed, like you said, that will allow us to be able to submit for grantmanship and being able to put in for the grants to be able to help the farmers as a collective body. Um, During that conclave, we connected with Bishop Andre Thomas, and he's actually Caribbean Israel Coalition. And that's another group that we connected with, which allowed us to connect with the being able to get supplies from them in bulk. Our year of training, of being able to ensure that all of our farmers, not only in Nassau, but throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, have certified certificates to be able to say, one, they know what they're growing. And mind you, most of the farmers today, they're actually growing grade A products. But the mere fact that they're not certified, they don't have any certificates to verify these or traceability, hinders them from being able to move it up to the next notch. And so therefore that was one of the concerns that we had as a group. And so therefore we decided we would reach out and get some assistance in that direction. And one of the things that we are focusing on is growing as much as possible during the 9-month window that we have right now, which is between September and May. And the reason for us only having the 9-month window, for those that may not know, the summer months are extremely hot. And because it's really hot, you have a lot of bugs, and the heat really doesn't do justice to the vegetation. So therefore, we indicated and we've expressed our concern to the minister. And I also want to give thanks to the minister because he's been working with us also in trying to assist us as best as possible. And he's been pushing for the industry to be revitalized, which we greatly appreciate. And so with that, um, yeah, we were planning on looking forward with the Israeli coalition to be able to get greenhouses, grow houses, those sorts of items for us to be able to grow fully during the full year, which would include the summer months, because we'd then be able to grow in shade houses and the crops would not have as much sunlight on them, and they'd be able to grow effectively. But getting into the topic that you brought us here, and it's a timely topic, Michelle, talking about food security. And, one of the things we always hear the term food security, and, what is food security is the big question, and it's food security is when all persons at all times have physical, social, and economical access to the sufficient and safe, nutritious foods. And I would even go a little further, especially with the farmers, for them to be able to provide a grade A product and become successful at what they do. And so, in a nutshell, that is what we're looking at as in food security, being able to, for all persons at all times, and also to be able to have it at an efficient price that they're able to purchase food at. And as you mentioned before, there are a number of countries around the world who are now enforcing their food security even more, to the point where they have stopped uh, shipping out certain foods, and they're holding them for themselves, because most countries actually realize within the next 90 days to 120 days, 160 days, where will they be with food? And so we as a nation have to take that same perspective and ask those same questions. We experienced this when Maria had passed in Florida, where the borders were closed. And sorry, the puppy is running the cat. Where the borders had closed and we weren't able to get greens in like we had wanted. And so we're now faced with this pandemic, and we're in the same situation, not necessarily the same, but we're in a situation where we now have to evaluate ourselves. We have to evaluate, what are we going to do? How are we going to get there? What roads are we going to take to establish our food security for ourselves? You know, and the farmers are willing to grow. They have been growing. And one thing I can say is that the local market, the domestic market, persons have really overwhelmingly supported the markets that we have. We have a market here at Down to Earth Adventure Farm. We also have the market at Gladstone Road. And so we've had overwhelming support from the domestic market here. And we've also been assisting the farmers from the Family of Islands, because they also have product that they send to Nassau to be sold. And so in that vein, we have been working. They have been doing the best they could with the limited resources that they have. So moving forward, we have to decide how we're going to do it. And it's not a when, it's that we need to do it immediately. This is something that we need to look at immediately.
Yeah.
And so in that, I will leave that at that point and then pick up where I need to in the meeting.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen. Coming up next, we have Shakara Lightborn. Shakara is the acting country representative of the National Technical Specialist at Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture in the Bahamas. And I'd like to invite Shakara now to open her microphone and bring us some greetings on behalf of her organization.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Thank you, Michelle, so much for having me at this forum. It's a very timely topic. I know food is at the forefront of everybody's minds right now because it's a physiological need, most definitely. So that's one of the things a lot of people are thinking about now. Just to give a little background of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. We are an institution that's about 75 years old. We've been in the hemisphere for 75 years. And we're a specialized agency that helps in the Inter-American system that helps with agricultural development in our 35 member countries. So we've been in the Bahamas since 1998, and I've been working for IECA for just about 8 years now. So it's been a long run in terms of capacity building for farmers. It's something we do on a daily basis, and as well as helping the government. We help from the government level as well as at the farmers level. So right now, I would say agriculture is winning, and it just took this COVID to make us win in the Bahamas. I haven't heard any farmers complaining about getting their products sold and whatnot, and this is as it should be. I think the agri-food system will be essential to maintain the employment in this country. We're going to have to reshift some people from our sectors that are strong to more of an agricultural system, particularly to ensure that we have food security in our country. And that's going to require a lot of people to be trained and repurpose their skills and be trained in different areas. Even the areas that Karen mentioned that are a barrier to the market, like the certifications. And I know one of the main certifications that are a barrier for farmers here is the food safety aspect of things. The hotels are considered, it's not an export. It could be considered a domestic export market because you're feeding people from all over the world. So I think that's one of the main barriers in terms of certifications would be good agricultural practices, as well as HACCP training, which is hazard analysis and critical control points, good manufacturing practices. These are the things that are barriers to our farmers right now in the hotels. So just even having a conversation with Disney, they're getting ready to do that big development in Eleuthera. And one of the concerns they had with receiving products from farmers was the food safety aspect. Because if they have an outbreak and if people get sick from the food, that's a huge lawsuit on their part. So they want to ensure that our farmers are equipped and trained and have those certifications that Karen mentioned to be able to supply not only quality food, but safe food, which is more important than quality, what we call quality. So I'm going to be here just for questions. I really want to hear what farmers have to say at this point. So we're always here. Everybody, I think most people know where our office is on Village Road, and we continue to continue our efforts in agricultural development in the Bahamas, in all areas of agriculture, from beekeeping to crop production to livestock, and in any area that we can assist in.
So the type of cooperation that you would bring to the Bahamas, the type of assistance you would bring to the Bahamas through that organization would be what, Shakara?
It's mostly technical cooperation. We bring expertise into the country. For example, I've had numerous workshops and training to try to empower people to do in different areas of agriculture. For example, the beekeeping industry, we were instrumental in moving that forward from 2015 when a group actually came to us and asked us to find the expertise, and we brought that technician in country and taught people how about beekeeping. And since then, we've been moving like a really well-oiled machine with that in terms of building the sector in that way. And it's the same whether we bring technical assistance in country or if we send people to other countries. We've sent Bahamians all over the hemisphere for training to come back and bring those expertise in the country. As for Dorian, we have provided input supplies to farmers on Grand Bahama and Abaco, in particular, to get them up and growing again. We bought drip tape and seeds and whatever inputs they needed to be able to start again. And so these are some of the things we do, as well as we try to write projects. We seek external funding from our partners like FAO and different organizations in the region to find funding to have projects to be able to implement in the country.
Okay, fantastic. All right. We're expecting Mac from the, I want to get it right, the One Stapleton Association group, but I'm not sure that he's on the call as yet. So I'm going to open the floor now.
Hello?
To Mac.
Hello?
Is that you?
This is Mark.
Oh, hey, Mac. I did. Your name doesn't show up on your phone, so I wasn't sure that you were on. How are you?
Yeah, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful.
Okay, so you're on. So bring us some brief remarks as it relates to the whole movement of backyard farmers in the country, because we see now where in this whole question of food security, it's being suggested that more and more Bahamians get into backyard farming. And I know that you've been passionate about that for a long time, and you're also looking to expand beyond just Stapleton, but getting other areas of the country, other what's the word I'm looking for, neighborhoods in the country to embrace this as well. So tell us what this whole question of food security looks like from where you sit as a person who pushes backyard farming.
Well, Michelle, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you very much for actually putting on this program here. In respect to Stapleton Gardens, we started July of 2017 as a backyard garden program in which I reached out to a gentleman who's been doing the backyard gardening program in the community of Stapleton for a very long time. As a matter of fact, he had a group back in the early 1960s, and his name is Mr. Harold Cole. I think many persons in this group that are into farming professionally would probably know him. I'm not a professional backyard farmer, but I have a bit of insight, and I think I pretty much good at pretty much rallying groups. I can bring persons together. And so I reached out to Mr. Harold Cole in that regard. And so he was able to assist me in terms of getting the backyard garden program started in 2017. Unfortunately, he would have passed away about a year now at the age of 84. Now, Mr. Harold Cole has been a gentleman who's been in the backyard garden for a very long time. And the thing is, it seems like, if you're not really caught up in the top positions and that type of stuff, you're not really taken note of. But if you go into his backyard, he had every line of vegetables there on an annual basis. And so for me to track what it is I was trying to do in the community of Stapleton, I were able to bring persons to his home to show them exactly that it could be done within communities. And so the group had bought into that. So I started off with 14 persons, okay? And to date now, we have a group where we communicate ideas and suggestions of over 105 persons in the group at present. In 2018, I held the first pop-up market in Stapleton Gardens, which was a success. And just recently, before the COVID-19, in March of this year, I think it would have been the 8th or the 9th, we held our second pop-up market. And all the products that were out there were actually grown in individuals' backyard. Okay? So, I gave them the opportunity whether they wanted to do an exchange or they want to sell their products. They were able to do that, and quite a number of persons made out pretty well in that regard. The reason for me focusing on the backyard garden program was because I know the area pretty well. We had quite a number of persons that would have passed away over a number of years from cancer. And so I felt as if basically, I think it pretty much had a lot to do with probably how we eat.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to be a part of trying to see if I could make a difference from that stance. Even myself, I've started doing my little planting as well, and I've done pretty well from that particular stance. Now, what I try to do in the community of Stapleton, because Stapleton is pretty much half home ownership, and you have a considerable amount of apartment units here. And so some persons would say that, pretty much they don't have any yard space to do anything. But I kind of beg to differ. And so what I did is I started to plant my vegetable products in a container and show them that you can get a result from that as well if you're looking from a home consumption standpoint. Okay, I have been able to plant like kale, Swiss chard, and the likes, and I've been eating out of basically one container for the last 4 months. And so I've even started practicing the healthy living lifestyle now as well. But I just want to say thank you very much, Michelle, for the opportunity to give us an opportunity to be heard now. I've also I put out a proposal in regard as well. Thank you.
Some folks are asking, how do we get a hold of you? You want to, do you feel comfortable giving out your number here, or would you prefer not?
Sure, you can have my number. You can reach me at 535-6410, or you can reach me at 828-6410.
And keep in mind,
let me also say I want to congratulate Mr. Basil Miller, who's from listening to the radio. I understand it's going to be leading the backyard garden program.
okay.
He has been very instrumental in terms of um, getting Stapleton Gardens up and running as well. He's a gentleman that I reach out to at the ministry, and anytime I call upon him, he has always been there in regard to the meetings that I would have held over the last 3 years. He's always been there, and I just want to congratulate him for, and I hope that there's no political interference. I think he has an opportunity to really and truly make some things happen, given the chance.
Thanks, Mark. And I'm glad you
And
mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and thanks to my Stapleton Garden community group that has constantly been instrumental in trying to push me as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. I'm glad you mentioned the connection between nutrition and health, which is one of the reasons why you decided to go into
Okay,
backyard
yeah.
farming, because as everyone probably knows, the Bahamas is a very, very sick nation. We lead the world in the prevalence of diabetes, and we are also, way up there with cancer and high blood pressure and so many other chronic illnesses. And I do believe that a great part of that is diet and nutrition. And I was really excited that Longevity decided to sponsor this webinar, because the reason why I wanted to have this be a part of what Longevity is all about is because that company is all about nutrition, and they do have a major aspect of what they offer is for the agricultural community, because the whole company is founded on the fact that every person needs 90 essential minerals, vitamins, essential fatty acids, and amino acids in order to thrive and to obtain optimum health. But because of modern farming techniques and the advent of electricity, our foods are not being grown with the same level of mineral density as our grandparents would have enjoyed. And so one of the products that Longevity has produced, well, two of the products is called Liquid EFM and Lumen Minerals. And these products are designed to put the minerals back into the soil. And so I was really excited when they agreed to be a part of this webinar today, because food security has to be so much more than just making sure that people have food in their stomach. But it should also go towards ensuring that people are receiving nutritious foods as well. And so I'm going to open the floor right now for Paul Croto from Longevity to bring greetings to the group on behalf of the company. And just to tell you a little bit more about Mr. Croto, he is the owner of 8 restaurants in New York and has a master's degree in nutrition. He's received the reward for best coach and teacher in the Longevity system, where he is a 5-star marketing director. And he has been in the industry of health and nutrition for more than 25 years. So Paul, welcome to this webinar on food security in the Bahamas.
Thank you all. Thank you, Michelle, for having me on today. I'm so honored to be here and among all of you today. This is such a great webinar so far here, and the cause couldn't be more important. So I'm super honored again to be part of all of this. And as Michelle mentioned, my background is in nutrition. I have a master's degree in nutrition, and I've studied what is the root cause of all these different diseases. I work with a doctor named Dr. Wallach, and Dr. Wallach has discovered that there's over 900 different diseases attached to nutrient deficiencies, as Michelle just mentioned. There's another great quote by a gentleman named Linus Pauling, who won 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. And he said that you can trace every sickness, every disease, and every ailment to a mineral deficiency. So, I mean, when he says every sickness and every disease and every ailment, that's pretty powerful words. And I echo those same words, that same belief system, that minerals are the driving life or the driving force to life, excuse me. So it's so critically important to get the government, all nutritionists, every single doctor will agree that there is 60 essential minerals that our bodies must have every single day to stay healthy. And we're just simply not getting these minerals anymore. You know, when we do soil samples and we do soil samples all over the place, the governments do soil samples from all over the place in the places that we grow our vegetables. And the soil samples just have gotten worse and worse and worse over the past 100 years, to the point we are now where there's basically no minerals at all left in the soil because we've used them over and over and over again, but never took the time to replenish them. So what we do is we help farmers replenish those minerals, those essential minerals that they're missing. Mineral mine in the state of Utah that we personally own. You know, we patented this, and we actually sell prehistoric plant-derived minerals that are no longer found on farms in the farm soil. So this mineral mine, these minerals that we provide to people, do contain all 60 essential nutrients. All 60 essential minerals that our bodies need every single day, and they're found in nature in this mineral mine. We're not artificially making these in some sort of laboratory. So we're literally, and we have videos we can share. Michelle, I'm not sure if you have that. There's a mineral mine video that is 5 minutes long.
I have
best
it.
video in the world okay, we're gonna see that today, maybe even.
Yeah, I can play it.
Yeah, it's the best. So I actually go and take people to Utah and here in the United States and give tours of this mineral mine and teach people the extreme critical need for these minerals in our body. And we wonder why we have this problem, or we feel tired, or we feel hungry, or we have these cravings, or we have this problem or that problem. It can all be traced back to mineral deficiencies. There's actually 90 essential nutrients that you must have. So not just the 60 minerals, but as Michelle mentioned, there's 12 vitamins, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 2 fatty acids, 2 essential fatty acids that we must get every single day from an outside source because our bodies cannot make those things. But of those 90 essential nutrients, 60 of them are minerals, and they are of the utmost importance because I do find ways that people can get some of these different vitamins or even essential fatty acids or amino acids from food. But there's absolutely no way to get these minerals, these 60 minerals from food, unless it's in the soil first, and the soil provides it, and the fruits and vegetables have it. But we can go to the supermarket and we can buy all the fruits and vegetables we want. They do absolutely no good for us. You are absolutely wasting your money by going to the supermarket and buying fruits and vegetables. Just take one vegetable, for instance, broccoli has literally lost 95% of its nutrient value over the past 100 years. And it's just been a steadily decline over the years. And it's all because of the soil quality. So this is, again, a critical topic that we're discussing here today. My hat's off to Michelle. I feel blessed to be part of this, and I cannot express to you enough how grateful I am that there's a leader like you leading the charge in getting this information out to farmers and to people who are responsible for the soil to understand the critical need to replenish this soil with minerals, because it's literally a matter of life and death.
All right. Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate you being a part of this webinar today. Here in the Bahamas, we don't have the greatest soil in the world to begin with. And I think the farmers here can attest to the type of effort that they have to put in to the soil that we do have, just to make sure that it is able to produce the kind of crops that they produce. And so I think it's a welcome development to be able to have something that can greatly enhance what they are already doing with the limitations that we now face. A big part of food security in the Bahamas, I say that Dorian has sort of sorry, not Dorian. We just got over Dorian. Now COVID-19 has sort of ripped the veil off of a problem that has been existing in the Bahamas for a while. And that problem is that there are many people who live either at or below the poverty line. And on a regular basis, without a crisis like COVID-19, have had a very hard time accessing nutritional food because they just don't have the money. And one of the problems that COVID-19 has unveiled for us is the fact that so many people are living day to day, working day to day just to feed themselves. They don't have the luxury of having a cupboard full of food. And so when we talk about going into a lockdown, many people found themselves in a position where they didn't have a choice but to break the order because they're hustling, trying to find, a way to put food on the table for their families. And so this is the reality for many, many Bahamians. And when we talk about food security, that is definitely, that is something that has to be taken into consideration. How do we ensure that all Bahamians have access to high quality food, food that is nutritious, not just, the stuff that's just going to fill their stomach, but not give them the nutrition that they need, so that we can turn this whole situation around as it relates to the high level of sickness we have in our country. And so I want to hear directly from the farmers today. This call is really all about you and suggestions that you have as to what we can do to turn this whole thing around. And at some point, I'm going to play the video that Paul mentioned so that you can see the source of the minerals and the products that are sponsoring this webinar today. And I'm also going to hopefully get an opportunity to play a video that shows the return from farmers who have been using the product. But initially, I want to hear from you, the farming community, as to what are your biggest concerns? What do you think are the greatest challenges facing the farmers in this country today? Is it a lack of financial support? Is it a lack of access to land? Would you like to see the government do more to ensure that farmers have all of the resources that they need? Do you think we need to move towards more organic products as opposed to partnering with companies that provide genetically modified products? I want to hear from you.
Pericles Malis.
Hi, Pericles.
Hi. Mr. Croto, actually several questions. When we buy the fertilizer that our government has recommended and has been bringing in for years and years, since I was a boy, 496 and 486. 496 for trees, 486 for vegetables. It has a long list of micronutrients. Isn't that putting back into the soil? That's number one. Number two.
Wait, before you go any further, you're putting what back into the soil? The governments are providing you with some stuff?
Yeah, there's a standard fertilizer which many years ago, Bahamians who qualified at Tuskegee and at University of Miami came up with the mix, and the company has been producing it ever since. We call it 496. I don't have a label in my hand, but it includes the three main ones, but it also includes a long list of micronutrients. Isn't that helping replenish?
Well, I don't know anything about the 496. I will absolutely look it up and find out what's in it. It may absolutely be doing that, but I'm letting you know that we grab these minerals from this mineral mine in Utah that definitely contains all 60 minerals that are considered essential to the body. So if any one of those 60 is missing, it's no good.
All right.
So,
Secondly, and then I won't talk too much. What about some of what we have here? Seaweed used to be part of our culture and all over the world. Kelp gathering. John Adams used to cover his fields and plow in the kelp, right?
yes.
Also, we know some of the chemistry that comes from some of the native trees, probably the same kind of trees that left chemistry in your prehistoric sediments. Our West Indian mahogany, also known as Madeira, I rake the leaves of that up and throw them around my star fruit, which crave iron, and poison wood, which we all hate and not to touch, rich in manganese. And we don't know them all, but leaf mold from our old growth or secondary 15, 20, 30-year-old growth, regrowth forest, that is a very, very rich fertilizer. And some of the solutions of the future, I think, are going to involve adding back into agricultural landscapes, agroforestry with native trees in fence rows, and like the Madeira, which someday will sell as timber, but in the meantime, we'll be pouring iron back into the ground. There's something about the leaves oxidizing these minerals and concentrating them. But I understand what he's saying, and I intend to try some of that.
Now, I wanna play a video, Pericles, that will answer your question. It would have been really helpful if we had the label of the fertilizer that you are talking about. And if anybody else has that label who can tell us what's in that, that would be great. I would really appreciate it. But there's a video that's been produced that is called The Laws of Minimums.
Now what I want to do is I want to get into the agriculture part of it. And I'm going to try to explain this as we go through. Okay, first of all, I want you to understand, I want you to write this down. It's really important to understand this concept called the law of minimums. The law of minimums was discovered by a German scientist, Liebig, in 1841. Okay, and he claims and makes a statement based on this law of minimums that the growth and yield of plants are affected by this lowest essential nutrient in the soil. Let me repeat that again. The growth and yield of a plant is affected by the nutrients that's least in the soil. And that's depicted by, called the tub principle. Those old barrel stave tubs. The maximum capacity of that barrel stave, or that tub with the barrel staves, is the lowest stave, right? That's the maximum capacity. This represents how much I can fill that tub. So the same thing is true with our soil. The plant is limited to the nutrients that's least in the soil. So how does this work? The roots metabolize the minerals that are in the soil for our benefit, right? There's 3 primary nutrients, 3 secondary nutrients, and there's 10 micronutrients, and there's 56 beneficial substances that the agriculture industry recognizes. Those are those additional minerals that are not considered an essential mineral, but they say the plant may benefit. With that said, if any one of these is missing, it will limit the yield and growth of the plant based on the law of minimums. The reason I emphasize this is because when we spray these plant minerals on plants, we see results we cannot get with the existing fertilizer program.
I know that this whole system is supposed to work along with your fertilizer. So it's not supposed to be a replacement, but it's supposed to work along with your fertilizer. And so I hope that answered your question as it relates to why it's important to have, more minerals than what's already existing in your fertilizer.
When I was a boy, the government seed and fertilizer shop also used to sell something. It was a gray powder that was called nutritional spray. We didn't know what was in it, but it worked magic on our trees. So I welcome this initiative.
All right, thank you so much for being a part of the call, Pericles. I really appreciate it.
This is the first webinar I've ever been on in my whole life.
I feel honored.
I'm going back on mute and listen.
All right, thanks for joining us on this. And again, I will send all of the relevant information to everyone involved. All right, so we'll have more information about what he's talking about. Anyone else that would like to ask a question?
I'd like to mention to Michelle that what we've found since we've been supplying persons with the local grown produce and products, we've found that persons have come back to us and say that the quality of the food is enhanced, and not only that, the taste, you can actually taste the food.
Yes.
the kale and the spinach, and it lasts longer in the refrigerator. So even statistically, it's a known fact that if persons eat from the grounds in the countries that they live in, it actually does their body really well. So that's a known fact, because there are certain nutrients that are applicable to persons that actually live in that country. And when you import food, it doesn't have the same substance as what you have locally grown. And so I just wanted to make that note. Even the celery, I'll take an example for our celery. When we grow our celery, which has been one of our main crops, we have persons who purchase celery in the food store, and they came back to us and they said, your celery is more potent than what we get in the food store. So that's a known fact.
You can most definitely taste the difference. I don't buy all of my produce that I buy and eat is from local farmers. I'm a big fan of the farmers markets. I don't buy anything in the food store that's unless it's non-perishable. And you can definitely taste the difference in the food. I mean, it's like night and day. And it's just the flavor is just so much more alive. And because let's face it, if it's grown locally, you don't have to worry about it having to be shipped here. By the time it travels, it loses some of its nutritional value. It starts to deteriorate. And so there's just no question that we need to encourage all of our people really to start eating locally grown produce. Now, I have a question for you guys. Why don't we see more locally grown produce in the food stores? And then sometimes when you do see them in the food stores, they hike the prices so high. And I'm wondering, why is that? Can anybody answer that question for me?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, one of the main problems we have with the farming community is the fact that they don't have the HACCP certificate, which is traceability. And another thing is that a lot of the food stores only want to purchase pennies on the dollar because they think it's a local farmer. And so because it's a local farmer, they think, oh, it's not worth that much, so they want to offer you pennies on the dollar. So most farmers decide that they're able to move their product more comfortably and at a better rate outside of the food stores. You do have persons who do have a little bit of items in the food stores, but most of the food stores want to purchase pennies on the dollar. But they get that concept from being able to purchase outside of the country on grade C and D items, when we have grade A items here, even though they may be a bit smaller, but they're not pumped up with a lot of fertilizers and that sort of stuff. And they are good quality produce that we have here. Take example, I'll give you another example, our bananas. Our bananas that we grow here, you can actually smell and taste that it is a banana. And now mango season is in season. You can pick up a mango that's grown here and you can smell it. You can smell that it's a mango. Those mangoes that have been imported, it's going to take a while for you to be able to smell that is a mango, because they pick them young and they have to force ripe them. Whereas the ones that you allow to grow to the point on the trees where they're full and then pick, you have a different taste altogether. And Mr. Malis can speak to those mangoes because he's doing an excellent job with mangoes.
Somebody posted in the chat, it says, I think it's because some of our local produce doesn't look picture perfect like the imported products, even though the quality is good. So that to me says that we have to do a better job at education to teach people that, you know, just because the banana is perfectly yellow without a spot, that's usually a sign that it's probably modified genetically, or and it definitely won't taste as good as the natural banana from the Bahamas. So what do we need to do to educate our people that they shouldn't be, like a Bahamian terminology, they shouldn't get swing by the prettiness of how the product looks. But the real deal is the product that has, does it have that pretty look? What do we need to do to enhance that educational process?
Speak to the quality of the product. I think we have, I think we actually have very good quality product. The issue comes in with the coordination and logistics. A lot of our produce is grown on our family islands in our so-called rural communities. I say rural, but I mean, that's a term that most people in the world understand, but we call it family islands. So it takes a while to get from there to the city where it is. And the fact that it's highly perishable is actually a good thing for our bodies. You have to, once you pick that produce, you have to get rid of it quickly, and you have to get it in your body quickly. So this is where Karen Shepherd's, their association cooperative is so important in gathering farmers and helping them to work together to create a consistent supply of produce to the supermarkets, because this is something they're looking for every week: consistency of supply, not only good quality food, safe produce, as well as consistency. And I think that's where some of our farmers are falling down, in that they're not consistent with their product. But if they continue to work together as a cooperative, as association, so if Karen doesn't have the product this week, Mr. Mealis has the product next week, or Mr. King has the product the other week, so they can all work together, be able to supply the food store on a consistent basis and be able to negotiate better prices. Because like Karen says, they don't, the supermarkets or businesses, they're going to negotiate the lowest price possible they could get for this stuff. They'll pay you nothing if they could, but farmers association cooperatives, they can negotiate as a group, negotiate the prices that they want.
That just makes a lot of sense, to come together as a group, because you obviously have more buying power and more negotiation power when you are a group as opposed to one individual. So that just makes a lot of sense.
There's a commercial that comes on television, and at the bottom of the plate, it says this produce was about to be thrown away, and it produced a really fantastic meal. And I say that to say this: yeah, we may have produce that may not have the appearance of the glamorous carrot or tomato. However, it has the nutritional value in it, and it has the taste.
Yeah.
So we may have that as a downside. And on the flip side of it, I can tell you, we actually have some excellent products, some excellent produce that we do take to market. So yeah, there are some items that may look a little bruised here or a little bruised there, but trust me, the taste far outweighs the bruise.
Oh, I agree. I think it's just, again, a matter of education. Trying to get our people to understand, and maybe we can get media involved where we do a series on, how to identify good produce, what to look for, I went to a farmer's market a couple of weeks ago at Gladstone Road, and I was about to pick, what do you call it, pumpkin. And the guy from BAIC says to me, "Oh, I can see you don't know nothing about picking pumpkin. You ought to pick a bad one." and so then he proceeds to pick a good one. And I'm like, well, I don't know the difference. So clearly, I think education is an important part of this discussion, that we need to get our people to understand what to look for. One of the things that I would like us to talk about is the growth of the agricultural industry in the country. I was really very encouraged to see on the news the great work that's being done in high schools, getting young people involved and interested and excited about agriculture, because for too long there's been this misconception that only old men are farmers. And we see now where more and more young people are getting involved in farming. And I was really excited to see the work that's going on at H.O. Nash, for example, where they're teaching these young men that, you can actually make a living from this, and a very good living at that. So what are your thoughts on the future of agriculture as it relates to getting our young people more involved and excited about being a part of the sector?
I must say, and I agree with you in regard, education is really going to play a key in us pushing this thing forward. And I think a lot of the groups really and truly need to come together. Strength is always in numbers. From my particular stance, I'm going to take it from a community perspective. First and foremost, my focus is really on Staple and Garden because I live here. But really and truly, I would like to, you know, um, see this thing expand to all of the communities. And the objective is identifying at least a head within the respective communities to take the lead in that regard, and we all come together to make it work. Backyard farming also can help to bring respective communities together to get to know persons within those areas. And imagine having pop-ups in each of these communities. So instead of you just only going to a farmers market on Gladstone Road every weekend, what about getting into these communities? You get to know the names, recognize faces, and then what you don't find, they eventually end up at Gladstone. I think it's gonna take a while, but I don't think we could ever have enough food uh, at present. Just a little small section that I'm doing and looking at it, and I try to look at it from a stance that what I have now can feed all of my family, and that's just one family.
Mm.
So imagine each individual actually getting involved in the backyard gardening, just identifying just one particular product that they want to grow. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've also there's an individual within my group as well. Uh, we've also launched a pilot program within our community where we've started a community garden program separate and apart from the backyard garden program. I believe every single community or constituency should have at least a community garden to complement the backyard garden. That's my personal view.
All right.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Yes, my name is Kenva Brown. Um, Thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone. Good afternoon. Um, I just wanted to say something that you asked a question about ideas to put forward to the government.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the backyard farming and the cooperatives, they're all well and good, but without government support, it doesn't go too far. The Prime Minister said something in one of his addresses. He said at the beginning of this lockdown, he said that he had a meeting with all of the stakeholders in these food stores. And he said that they guaranteed him that there were food supplies to last, that people didn't need to purchase in bulk. So if he can have that kind of communication with them and come to some agreement to phase out gradually over a period of time, bringing in agricultural products, and at the same time working with the farmers, working with the backyard farmers, working with the cooperatives to have a growing schedule for each island, for each farm. We can feed ourselves by having a sustainable flow of fruits and vegetables here in the Bahamas. But it has to be a concerted effort by all. Of course, they don't want to lose money, but make money also. Plus, we need to eat properly. These GMO products that are being brought in, they may be bigger, larger, but they're not better.
No.
They're not better. That's my take. Thank you for listening.
Actually, there is research to show that not only are they not better, but they are very harmful to the body. And so we really, anyway, that's going to be next week's webinar. Next week we're going to be talking about going organic, becoming certified organic country. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. So prepare for that one. But Angelique, you have a question?
Hi. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for hosting this. I am actually a BAMSI student. For those that doesn't know what that is, that's the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute in Andros. And what you guys were saying earlier about our food being very healthy and Bahamians not having the best diets, and in regards to a lot of the food going through the packing houses from the associated farming programs, a lot of that either being wasted, not being accepted into the food stores. I think what would be beneficial for the country is if, along with the packing houses, we can start maybe moving towards some equipment to process these foods, whether taking the ugly food or the excess that is good for our bodies, instead of it going to waste, we can freeze it, can it, pickle it. And then also I've realized a lot of the food that is our bread basket items for those that are on the lower income that might use food stamps and stuff like that. Why isn't the food being grown by our farmers being not forced, but at least directed mainly towards that? If we can take that food, process it, and have it ready to be in abundance for those already seeking assistance for more food and now healthier food, then we can push and provide them with more knowledge on the better food for their body, and also reduce food waste at the same time. So
Great stuff.
we could hit two birds with one stone.
Great ideas. Great ideas. Anyone else? I see
What
quite
was
a few.
that young lady's name?
Angelique.
Angelique Cartwright.
Cartwright.
Okay, I see a lot of folks putting comments in the comments. I guess you kind of shy. Does any? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My name is Malika Claire. I would have been graduating from this month actually with a degree in associate degree of agriculture science. So I was wondering, especially with the economic shift, a person wanting to start their own businesses, would there still be access to like maybe grants for those who want to start their business in respect to farming, or in my case, in aquaculture?
Now the grants, I know, I understand, comes through the cooperatives, and that's one of the main reasons that we're actually trying to formulate the cooperative. However, I know government will provide the land for you. If you submit your application to Ministry of Agriculture, they will grant you a piece of land, and that will be your start. However, that is where most of the farmers have had the difficulty, because one, they've received the land, but once you have the land, in order to process and do what you need to do and get the farm up and running, you need to have funding. And that has been a major obstacle for the farmers, because most of them have been able to get granted the land. And then after you have the land, the little limited resources that they have is what they start with. Some persons have secondary businesses or jobs where they can filter funds from that job to the farm, which has assisted minimally, but it has not really put them in a position to be a very successful farmer. I must say, farming is a very, very, very expensive venture.
It is.
It is not something that you can just wake up tomorrow morning and think that you will plant seeds tomorrow and whoa, you'll be very successful. No, it is very, very expensive. It's very time consuming. You have to be dedicated
Very.
to it. You have to have a vision for it, and you have to have a passion for it. So, where persons may see all these fields all around the world, and these luscious farms, and even when persons come here at the farm, Down to Earth Adventure Farm, and they see what is happening here, this is 16 years of hard, dedicated work that has gone into this. And so, and trust me, we've had a couple of knockdowns, but we have to get back up. When we had Matthew, we had 5 feet of water in here. We lost 2,000 birds. We lost all our crop. And so there's one side of this that people look at, but there's also the other side. But farming is a very, very expensive venture to get into. You can start small in your backyard. We've been encouraging most homeowners, and not only since this pandemic, for years, we've been selling seedlings to persons to be able to start their own backyard farms and have onions and the main stuff that they would purchase every week, which will probably be about $20 worth of stuff, but that's $20 that you don't have to spend in the food store if you have onions and bell peppers and celery and your herbs that you want to cook with. So we were encouraging that years ago. So this isn't something that we've just started. This is something that we've been doing over the past 16 years. So in regards to answer your question, as far as I know, no, there's no funding available like that unless you have some land that the bank can hold. And when the land is also granted to the individual, it's not a tradable document. You cannot take that to the bank because it's a lease. It's a lease for 21 years. And so it's not a tradable document. So the farmers has been on one hand grateful for the government to be able to grant them the land, but at the end of the day it's a struggle. It's a struggle unless you have um, funds in the bank saved up, or you have the means or wherewithal to um, get funding from someone somewhere else or someone else. So yeah, that's a difficult part for most of the farmers. And mind you, all of them have the vision. They have a vision. However, the greatest stumbling block is the funding. But yeah, that's the problem that most persons find themselves in at this present time. The government doesn't issue funding. They will say that they will give you maybe seeds, and they'll give you one or two things here down the road, which all the farmers are grateful for. But at the end of the day, you want to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, you have to start off consistent. And unfortunately, most of the farmers who have been granted land have not been consistent for that reason. Even those in the family violence, they go through it. The packing houses, they take produce to the packing houses. The government takes long to pay them.
Yeah.
And so by the time they get paid for the last crop, it's time for them to start the other set of start the crops, but they don't have the funds yet. So it's a difficult task ahead that the government needs to put policies in place to be able to really, really assist the farmers, not just saying that they won't give them funding, they're going to give them supplies, but, these are business people too. They know what they want to do, they know what they want to produce, and they have a plan. So it's not like they're going to take the money and splurge it and do something else. Whereas you may have one or two that go contrary, but you have to rein them in or take the land back from them. That would be my suggestion. But this is a business. This is a business, not a hobby. This is a business.
Efficient, I feel as if that means having funds allocated to help people to get started in whatever field it is they would like to do, because farming isn't just soil, there is soilless farming, also known as aquaculture. So sometimes it's not necessarily about the amount of land you get, it's just funding.
Malika, I just wanted to interject here in terms of that. I don't know if you're familiar with the Small Business Development Center.
Right.
They give, once you complete their 2-week course and how to develop your business plan, and they actually teach you how to do that, you can apply for funding through the Small Business Development Center. Also, the Bahamas Development Bank is another place that you can receive funding for agricultural projects.
I like to piggyback on something Angelique said about the excessive that farmers grow. What they can do for social services is when those farmers get those produce, people are going to the food store and they're not buying any fruits or vegetables. So at least with that, they will be able to have more vegetables in their diet and more fruits in their diet. So they could go to BAIC or whoever's in charge and say, well, they have a $20 voucher to get $20 worth of $20 box. So those things, you know for sure, people will be implementing vegetables and certain fruits in their diet, because many of the children today, they only know onion, tomato, and sweet pepper and lettuce. That's about it. Some may know carrots and some other things, but they're not cooking them.
I can speak a little to the young lady's question about the grant money. Thanks, Shakara, for raising the issue.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm a consultant with the SBDC, so I would encourage her to reach out to us directly. You can just give her my contact information, or she can take it down now if she wishes. It's Darvin, DARVIN .Russell, 2 S's and 2 L's, at sbdcbahamas.com. So she can send me an email directly, and I can help her kind of navigate the system. A few years back, the government also had a direct grant program for people under 30, operated through the Ministry of Finance and the University of the Bahamas. I'm not sure if that program is still in existence anymore, but she doesn't need to go directly to the Bahamas Development Bank because they're one of our lending partners at the SBDC. The other thing that I would recommend to her is a lot of farmers she can probably speak to who will be willing to collaborate with her. So she might not have land, but a lot of farmers have excess land. So if she needs land, she might be able to pay them something to just take over or use a portion of their property to do what she needs to do. As a farmer, I have extra land, or a portion of the land. If she's interested in aquaponics, I have a hydroponic farm, so I'm familiar with what she's attempting to do. So she can reach out to me in multiple ways if she wants some assistance. So
that's Darvin Russell at SB.
Darvin.Russell at sbdcbahamas.com.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question. Are the government, exactly Ministry of Agriculture, what are they doing to ensure that the farmers are following the good agricultural practices?
Well, the onus is on the farmers to be able to do that, and that is one of the reasons why I had indicated that this year was going to be a year of training for the farmers and for them to be able to gain their certificates in the agriculture industry and also in the HACCP. So the onus is actually on the farmers to be able to do that. But we're working on that for this year for them to be able to have that.
I'd just like to add to that. We have at AICA, we've had several good agricultural practices trainings over 5 years or so on different islands. We've done it in Cat Island, Grand Bahama, Providence, Ilustra. So we haven't done one in at least maybe 2 or 3 years, but we have had workshops in that area, and I think this is one of the areas that the government has already asked us to assist in.
Same thing with strawberries. With blooming minerals, without blooming minerals. Notice the difference in size. Now, interesting enough, if you take a strawberry and you cut it in half, what do you see in the middle? You see hollow, right? See, the middle should be a darker color than this. It should be a lot darker than what we have right here. But these strawberries taste a lot sweeter than these. Matter of fact, if you ate one of these strawberries and come back and ate one of these almost taste sour. And I was down in Anaheim, California. I was giving a lecture, and I had strawberries brought in from Rodney's Ranch. Well, I'll show you some of his pictures in a minute. And Rodney's Ranch strawberries had a Brix of 13.1. And the local grown strawberries were 6.8. So I had 2 volunteers come up. And then what they did is I asked them, I had a tray. Well, I cut these strawberries in half, and one half the tray was Rodney's Ranch, the other half was the local grown strawberries. You can see the difference in color. I mean, it's night and day difference. So I had them sample Rodney's strawberries first. Then I had them sample the local grown strawberries, and it was interesting to see the look on their face. And I need 2 volunteers. Who has never seen my presentation? Would you come up here, ma'am? I need a guy. Sir, would you come over here? I want you to stand right here. And would you stand right there? Now, I have some strawberries here that have minerals, some with minerals, some without minerals. So I'm going to let These volunteers tell us the difference. This is without minerals. See how white the center is? Okay. This is with minerals, Rodney's Ranch, Liquid EFM. Notice how deeper color that is? What we're going to do is we're going to give each one of these taste testers here, I want you to eat that strawberry. Okay? Not bad, huh? Now that's one with minerals. Once you completely eat all of it, I want you to take this one here, and we're going to do another one. And now what I want you to look at their faces once they eat this strawberry, okay? Go ahead. Now I want you to keep a straight face. Try to keep a straight face. Is it as good as the other one?
Not close.
Not close? Do you want to finish it?
Too late.
Too late? Do you want another one?
You got a spit cup?
You got a spit cup? But is a clear difference, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Night and day difference.
These were grown or you just soaked them?
No. These were had irrigated once a week with Liquid EFM, and these were local from the local grocery store. Okay? So that's
Even the texture is different.
okay. One side is with and one side is without, so I'm sure they go pretty fast. So we passed the tray around to the rest of the audience, and they had a chance to sample the difference between a strawberry had 13.1 bricks versus 6.8, and the look on the people's faces, it was night and day difference. Okay, where do these minerals come from? Well, central Utah, we actually extract them from a deposit, and this is we call this a prehistoric plant deposit. Prehistoric plant deposit. And if you look at this picture right here, you have got a protective shelf, 75 to 100 foot protective shelf of limestone and sand that has encapsulated a huge slab of decomposed vegetation, or compost, another name for compost. And by the way, here is a sample of that, and it's called, we call the term blooming minerals. Now you can go ahead and take a look at this, pass it around. And all this here is just little tiny mud balls. Okay, those humates, called humic shell, is clear all that huge slab of humates. Okay, so we'll dig that stuff up and bring it into these tall 10,000 gallon containers, or tall little mini silos or containers, and we'll fill that up with 1,000 gallons of water, sterile water. See, sterile water is hungry water, and these plant minerals in here. See, these plants grew at a time when these minerals were naturally occurring in the crust of the earth. We actually have a lab analysis guaranteeing you what's in these plant minerals from A to Z. There's over 75 different minerals in this humate deposit. I've been to the mine a couple of times. You can break up that humates. It just breaks apart real easy. We'll extract all the water-soluble plant minerals out of here. And I said water-soluble plant minerals. Now, we're not able to get all the minerals out of here, but the water-soluble plant minerals. Then they'll run it through all the fulvic minerals are run through a 0.5 micron filter, which takes out all the heavy metals and toxins and things like that. And then it's shipped to the company Longevity, and this is where we get our mineral supplements from. The mineral caps. Remember we talked about this powder mineral? Just earlier we had a chance to talk about the powder minerals. This also is what's in the mineral capsules. One mineral capsule is equivalent to 1 ounce of liquid plant minerals, okay? Now, the fulvic minerals that comes out of that humates looks like this. It's a yellow golden tea called fulvic minerals. Now this is too strong for human consumption, so when they bring it to Longevity, before they bottle it for human consumption, they'll water it down. Okay, they'll water it down, and it is bottled in the FDA-approved facility. That's what makes it available for human consumption. We also use this mineral for agricultural use. I'll explain how that works here in a second. Okay. We use it for plants as well as animals. So this is where we get our plant minerals from. Okay, now I want to kind of take a little moment here and kind of explain the importance of this mineral deposit. Now I got this picture from the Japanese scientist, Mr. Maruyama is the gentleman I got it from. As I said earlier, these plant minerals are water soluble. Notice that yellow cake up there, that yellow cake? That is nothing more than the same plant minerals that you had a chance to sample earlier. This powder minerals, right? As you take a chunk of that humates and you set it in a Petri dish with water, as water evaporates, it rises, right? And it brings those plant minerals to the surface. Now, there are other plant deposits throughout the world. We know 3 in China, 1 in Australia, 1 in Canada, 1 in New Mexico. But none of those plant deposits had the ability to have the blooming mineral effect according to Mr. Maruyama. That's why the Japanese come all the way to America to get their humates, or their source of plant minerals, because of high quality and quantity of water-soluble plant minerals. This picture is basically helps us understand and make a better connection the importance of these plant-derived minerals and the source where they come from. If you've never been to the mine, I highly recommend you do a mine tour. The company, the Longevity, puts on a mine tour about every year. Usually in between June and August, they'll have a mine tour.